So you want to pass your real estate exam. Congratulations. I just passed mine yesterday and I am jacked because you know what? That test is not that easy. So in the next couple minutes, let me tell you how I passed it without buying any bonuses, any courses, any books or flashcards or any of that stuff. All right, let's get going. First things first is, where do you want to take the exam? Because you know, when you take this course, you could either take it online or in a classroom. Now, this is the second time I've taken the test. I took it once years ago, about 5 years ago, and I did it in a classroom. And the good thing about a classroom is that that is your focus for the week. I think it was like 4 days or 5 days straight, 8-hour days. It's a full week of class, which it sucks if you're working, but the good news is that you are immersed in real estate. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you're learning the course nonstop, whether you like it or not. Another good thing is that the instructor also has a good idea of what's on the exam. So he'll say blah, 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 blah. We could skip forward through this, or let's take a couple more minutes on the math because this is going to be on the exam. The downfall is that it gets boring quickly. Like 2 hours into class, I'm like, ugh, can we please stop? Or when someone asks a question like, oh, can you do that problem again? And all of a sudden, mentally, you've got it. You're ready to move on. You're ready to like, all right, next thing, next chapter, next thing. And sometimes you just have to slow down for the other people in the class. That's the downfall. I did it the first time and I passed the first time. This time I did it via online, and the website I did it through was called realestateexpress.com. And there's no real reason I picked that website except for the fact that it looked official. It looked like there was a nice setup of the website. The cost was about $100 or $150 because I included the post-licensing course. You'll have to take 45 hours of post-licensing education anyway. So at least here in Florida, at least for the Florida exam. So I signed up for that. The setup is quite nice and you go at your own pace. Now, the good thing with online is that you could still work your regular job, you could still do your thing and do the class at your own pace. The downfall is that you're not immersed in it. So if you do 1 or 2 chapters a week, you're just missing out. There's no point, because by the time you reach the end of the course, chapter 19 for Florida, you're gonna forget everything from 2 months ago, weeks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So here are my tips for doing it. Number 1, if you're gonna do it online, you do not have to sign up for the additional bonuses, the practice exams, the flashcards. Now, if you are just foreign to real estate, if this material is really tough for you, then maybe you should get it. Maybe you should get the flashcards. For an extra 30 bucks or 40 bucks, it's better insurance to know you're going to go into the test and rock it than to go in, pay the $40 or so to Pearson VUE, fail the exam, and then have to do it again a month later. Because in Florida, it's a month later. So that means you have to study again for a month, or you just let it go by the wayside and then you have to study all over again. Something to keep in mind, about a 50% pass rate. And that's not incredibly low, that's not incredibly high, but it means you need to know your stuff. So don't take this test as something you can wing, because it's technical enough to the point where if you have a question, you could probably narrow it down between 2 choices, but then the difference between you really studying and slacking off is the difference between you picking the great choice, the right choice, or just the good looking answer. And there's a lot of those on the test. A lot of, here A, B, C, D, 2 are really wrong. 1 is pretty damn good as an answer, and the other one is the correct answer. So you got to pick that right one. So look out for that on the exam. Now, as far as how I studied, this is how it went. I went through the whole course about a month ago, and I didn't realize that I could have signed up for the exam as soon. So I took about a month off of finishing the exam to then finishing the course to then scheduling the exam. A month break. Do not do that. When you finish this course, you want to take the exam in the next couple days. I would say a week out max. And that's because there's 19 or 20 chapters, whatever it is for your state. There's a lot of information that you're going to have to regurgitate in pretty good detail on some of the questions. And if you take a couple of weeks off, it is going to slip your mind and it's not going to do you any service. So what I would do is, when I studied, I finished the exam, I finished the course quite quickly. I just zoomed through it so I could get it out of the way, schedule the exam, and then it really started for me. I did about 3 chapters a night. I put it on like a 5-day schedule, 5 days out from the exam. Scheduled, I did 3 chapters per night. I didn't read the book at all. I don't want to take in all this knowledge. I want to take in the key facts. So all the chapter summaries from Real Estate Express, what they provided. I did all the quizzes, and then any terms I didn't know, I just looked it up and I tried to do some sort of association. Like, for example, a section is 640 acres, and I just said Section 640, Section 640, Section 640, Section 640, Section 640, Section 640. I said it over until a point where when I said the word section to myself, the number 640 followed. That was the association I did. So I did that a lot for technical things, and you'll have to know how many feet are in a mile and how many cubic feet are in an acre, or all those formulas. You'll have to know that, or you're going to get a couple answers wrong. So 3 chapters a night. I did that for the last 4 nights, and then the final day, it was study for 2 hours of just go over everything. Take a break, because mentally you're not going to retain that much after a while. Take an hour break, eat lunch, whatever, then go back to it. Another 2 hours. Take another break, another 2 hours. Now, in terms of scheduling your exam, this is what worked for me. I don't know what kind of times you could do, but my time was 12:15, which was perfect. And it's because personally, I'm a morning guy. I have more energy in the morning. I'm more mentally focused around 9 a.m. till 2 p.m. But then after that, it goes down. It tapers off. So think of how you are mentally. Are you the sharpest at 10 a.m., at noon, at 2 p.m.? If you can schedule the time where you're at your mental peak, that's going to help you a lot, because remember, this is 100 questions, and it's 100 questions where one word in there, they slip one word in there, and that'll lead you to a wrong answer. So you've got to be very focused. All right, so you've completed your course, you've scheduled your exam at the time that is best for you, where you're not distracted by other things going on like work and family and school, but you can really focus on the exam, and it's a time of day that you're at your mental peak, which is very important. Now, what do you do the day of the exam? For one, it goes without saying, you need great sleep. If you have bad sleep the night before, it is going to hurt you. So make sure to take some chamomile tea or anything else that will help you fall asleep. Get good 8-9 hours. Get to the testing facility early. And what I did is I looked up where the testing facility was, which was about 20 miles away from me, so it was far, and I saw the nearest coffee shop. Go to the Starbucks or whatever coffee shop, Panera Bread, study beforehand nearby, and it's because you do not want to be running late because traffic is a nightmare, because there's an accident, because of whatever. Do not put any extra stress on you. Get to the area sooner, have an hour to study, have a bit of coffee, which for me, the coffee helps my mental alertness. For you, if it doesn't, then ignore it or have something milder like tea. But honestly, the coffee with a bit of coconut oil slowly released into my system gave me a nice little supply of energy throughout the test. So I did like that. Also, pump yourself up. You should be excited when you study a good amount and you've done a couple practice tests and you can see how it works. You should feel good about it. And so that means on the way there, be like, I'm gonna rock this exam. I'm gonna crush this exam. This is the beginning of my real estate dynasty. I'm a mogul in the making. This is step 1. pump yourself up. And there's another thing that Tony Robbins talks about, which is a power pose, where he puts his arms out as wide as possible, put your legs out as wide as possible, take up as much space as you can. Hold it for a couple minutes. It's called a power pose because you're taking up space. Powerful people take up space, but it actually leads to more confidence. And there was a study done that said that when you do the power pose for a couple minutes before an exam versus curling up in a ball like a baby in a fetal position, you actually perform better. So remember, crush this exam because you own it. You know, you've done the work. You should be as confident as possible, because you know what, if you're not confident, it's not going to help you either. I'd rather be confident and fail than not confident and fail. All right, next thing is what's on the test. Now, when I took the test, there were a couple good things I noticed. Compared to the practice test I took, the actual test was still kind of difficult, but it wasn't very lengthy. A lot of the practice tests were these huge paragraphs that I had to read through, while the exam itself, they did a good job of just putting 1 or 2 sentences in there so you're not reading so much, because that gets very draining. The other thing is that there's not one thing I really noticed on the exam in terms of material. It's not like, oh, the exam had so many questions about this or that. It's basically spread out. So there's not one chapter you can really focus on. I would just recommend you know the key parts of the laws of the laws. And also think of it this way. This is one thing to really pay attention to. When you go in the exam, think of it like the administrator would. Think of it as the DBPR for Florida, that's the licensing association, what they would want you to know. And basically what they want you to know is almost anything they put in that test that could be unethical is unethical. And anything that is unethical, that you could get fined or suspended, your license is suspended or revoked, it will happen, and to the worst degree. Because a lot of the exam is about warning you, don't do these idiotic things. Do not be discriminatory. Do not lie to customers. Do not do all this. So when you come in with that mentality and the answer is my license could be suspended for A, 1 year, B, 2 years, 3, 5 years, D, 10 years, you know, like that's probably 5 or 10 years, and the answer is 10 years for my exam. So always think of it that way. Besides that, take your time. I had 3 hours on my exam. If you want to take a 5-minute break, do so. It was about question 50 to question 60 that mentally I just took a 2-minute breather. I just sat back there, closed my eyes, let myself regroup, because I want to be as focused as possible for the next half of the exam. Another thing is that they will give you paper. They should give you paper and pen to write on. The second you get into that classroom and they say good luck, write down everything you memorized. Every formula, every definition, everything, because you don't want it in your mind. You want it on the paper so you can focus on the question rather than trying to conjure up the right formula and the definition. Just write everything out. It's going to help you. Besides that, good luck. They don't tell you if you what your score is. They just tell you pass or fail. And I passed. I think I got around an 80. 75 is passing. I think I got an 80 because when I was done, my fingers were crossed. I was like, it's not a gimme. I didn't walk out there like, man, I nailed that test. I had to wait to look at the paper. I was like, I passed. So I was pretty excited. But the test isn't that easy. Do flashcards. That's the one thing I don't really regret because I passed, but it would have helped is every chapter, when you do a chapter, just write down a definition on one side and then the term on the other, or the law on one side and what the law means on the other. And I feel like that would have helped me a lot more. Just do it as you go. But besides that, good luck on your state exam. I know you can do it. Take the time necessary because it's really worth studying a bit too much and going in there and passing it than having to come back a month later, study even harder. It's just not worth it. And besides, this is information that you should know, you should want to know. At least some of it you should want to know because it's your career, all right? So good luck, and please subscribe to my station. I guess I'll be here somewhere around this area. Check out my other video, and this is the Millennials Guide to Real Estate. So guys, it's time to invest, it's time to buy, and it's time to have a great 2017. See you later.